1612290. You have a customer who bought a XYZ February 35 put at 5. So I would want you to understand contract specifications. So I always like to say, okay, I have a choice to sell the stock at 35. I paid 5 points for that choice. The current market value is 33. So my choice to sell at 35 with the stock at 33 put down, the market price is down from the strike price, is worth 2 points. The current premium is 2. Boy, if you see that in the real world, it'd sign me up. In the real world, there'd be no option premium that would not have some time value unless it was expiration. So this is an option that is trading at just its intrinsic value. We call that parity. Parity means equal. Equal. That's what the word parity means. So the premium is equal to the intrinsic value. Now, good news for you, you get to leave, Jen, the Series 7 Fantasyland someday. And this is only a Series 7 Fantasyland question. I never get to leave the Series 7 Fantasyland. I'm stuck here permanently. No wonder I'm demented, right? You will never see this in the real world. However, I do think I think the question is not parity so much, is I would want you to know that the premium consists of two things, intrinsic value and time value. That concept of intrinsic value here, 2 points, is important because what they do on the test is you close it out at intrinsic value. If you don't know what that is, you're not going to be able to tell me that this is a 3 point loss, right? If I say a customer bought a February 35 put at 5 with the stock at 33, he closes it out at intrinsic value. What is the profit or loss? And then you'd have to net the two. So that's where I think this is important. I would also tell you that, boy, they have to spend a whole paragraph explaining something to you.
Yes.
Probably not a great question. Probably not a great question. So I wouldn't beat yourself
Okay. All right. So,
up.
and like you said, it's test land. I was being too realist with it, probably.
And by the way, this means that we didn't need to know you were long or not. What I like to do, just as my mechanics process, I sometimes like just to put the market price either above or below the strike, just to make my analysis a little easier.
Okay.
That's what
That's
now.
good. A visual.
Yeah, that way then I can do, my call up, put down thing, right? I can say, okay, if the market price is down from the strike price, it has intrinsic value, right? So, this
Okay.
all right, looks like Jonathan has a question. I'm looking to take the 7th before the 4th of July. I think that's a wonderful idea. I had a guy, Jonathan, he told me he was going to go to the Bahamas. He's going to take his books with him. I go, why would you do that? Please move up your test date. He was going to go to the Bahamas, come back and test on Monday. I go, no, test Thursday before you go to the Bahamas. Why do you want to be? I thought, man, I said, listen, you may have every intention, my friend, and maybe you're more disciplined than me. You might have every intention that you're going to, be in your bungalow or whatever and, do your studying. But even if that were true, I mean, your family and friends are going to think you're nuts. So, accelerate the study plan, be done with it. I got a guy testing Monday. He's very aggressive and I like it in this regard. I think he's going to pass. And so he's only giving up one weekend of his life instead of 4 or 5 weekends of his life, right? So, there's something to be said for an accelerated study plan. Best practice is to have a date, and I think testing sooner is better than testing later. STC is a fine, reputable test prep vendor. I don't see any issues there. I should be done with the course on the 25th. I love it. And then you just suck it up. You start doing intellectual inventories, practice tests. Yeah, I would do right after class when I'm teaching class. So any class, but when I teach a class, STC, I always recommend that right after class, take a practice test to see, where you're starting out after class. Hopefully, Jonathan, maybe you had one before you took class or you have a data point. But I like to get that first data point just to see where I'm at. So that's not, by the way, we're not doing practice tests to aimlessly do them over and over, and that's not what we're doing. We're just trying to get a mark, an intellectual inventory to see where we're at and whether we have a margin of safety or not. Right? The guy today that I just did a session before we got on the phone, and he's got nothing but green lights. His scores are great. I told you he's being aggressive. He's going Monday. I love that. He told me he's missing questions because he's not reading the full question. Hey, but he's got an 82 on a practice test. So who cares? I said, would I like you to do better? Yeah, I would, but 82 means we got a margin of safety. I would be awful surprised if we you don't make your mark on Monday, right? So I like that sense of aggression. So do that, get that data point. Now, I would like you to be in the mid 70s, right? So if that first score is not a mid 70, then we remediate. You should spend as much time in remediation as you should taking the test. Now, there's a disagreement, Jonathan, about this, and I'll tell you what my theory is. I don't believe in remediating questions you got right. There's some people who say you should review every question, right or wrong, to make sure you got it right the correct way. I don't believe in that because it slows you down and it's counterintuitive, but you're trying to find all the stuff you don't know. And if you're literally looking at every question, like John and I are both doing, he's remediating, he's looking at every question, right or wrong, and reading the rationale, I'll be able to knock out 3 times as many practice questions and find out much more stuff I don't know than confirming stuff I do know. So when I'm saying remediate, I like to remediate the stuff you didn't get. Now, there are some OGs out there who drive me nuts who really think that you should sit down. I had a guy the other day, he told me, "Dude, I did 4 practice tests today." I said, what a waste of your time. I mean, that fourth test is not a reliable score. We don't even know if that means anything. So no more than one test a day. I would like as a corporate trainer kind of person, Jonathan, I would want to say, okay, so how many marks are we going to take between now and test time? Right? Are we going to do 3 or 4? I don't really care, to be honest with you. I just want you to commit to a number, right? So, okay, then we're going to talk about that, right? So the guy the day I told him, I said, listen, he's being very aggressive. And he said, Dean, after I get my 7 done on Monday, I'm going to do my 65 on Tuesday. I go, oh my God, you're a nut. I said, that is just, now your scores. I said, but we don't have a 65 score. So do me a favor. I don't think you're at risk on your 7, but to be determined whether you're risking a 65 because we got to get a practice test score. So that would be my recommendation. About 7, 10 days out, you almost should be exclusively doing practice test, intellectual inventories, and remediation. And then the remediation when it means circle back and do reading or watch a video. But you shouldn't be just kind of, be random anymore looking for things. You want to kind of bulk up on base knowledge.